Jace Warwick had experienced strange awakenings before. That came with the territory of salvage diving in deep space. But nothing had prepared him for the sensation of warm, luminescent skin pressed against his bare chest. His eyes shot open to the dim blue emergency lights of the abandoned medical frigate. The weight on his torso shifted slightly. He froze, heart hammering against his ribs, as he registered the slender figure draped across him like a living blanket. She was humanoid, but unmistakably alien. Her skin emitted a faint, pulsing blue-violet glow that illuminated the contours of her face, high cheekbones, delicately pointed ears, and eyes so deeply black they seemed to contain galaxies. Silvery filaments ran beneath her translucent skin like circuitry. "What the—" Jace tried to sit up, but she pressed herself more firmly against him, her skin suddenly brightening. "Please," she whispered, her voice carrying an odd harmonic quality. "Don't break contact." Jace became acutely aware of three things. First, he was completely naked, having stripped down after hours in his pressure suit. Second, this woman, this alien, seemed to be wearing nothing but some kind of ceremonial shawl draped over her shoulders. And third, her skin felt unnaturally warm where it touched his. "Who are you?" he demanded, trying to maintain some dignity despite the situation. "How did you get on this vessel? It's been abandoned for weeks." Her eyes, those impossibly dark pools, regarded him with an unreadable expression. "I am Alira Tain," she said. Each word seemed carefully chosen. "Last heir of the Sathala Empire. And you are my sanctuary." "You're what?" Jace made another attempt to dislodge her, but her fingers suddenly gripped his shoulders with surprising strength. "If you break contact for more than moments, I will begin to die," she said, matter-of-factly. "I cannot explain everything now. They are coming." As if on cue, a proximity alarm blared through the ship's communication system. The woman, Alira, flinched at the sound, her glow momentarily intensifying. "Jace," came the metallic voice of his ship's AI through his comm bracelet. "We have company. Unidentified vessel approaching. Registered as Galactic Union Enforcement." Jace stared at the alien woman clinging to his chest. Her expression betrayed no deceit, only quiet desperation and something else. Resignation, perhaps. "How do you know my name?" he asked. A ghost of a smile crossed her lips. "I know many things about you. Jace Warwick, salvage diver, former rescue specialist, man who sleeps unclothed in pressure suits." Jace felt heat rise to his face that had nothing to do with her strange warmth. "That's private information." "Yes," she agreed simply. "We have little privacy between us now." The ship shuddered as something docked against the hull. Alira's eyes widened, her glow dimming to a faint flicker. "They will take me back," she whispered. "They will cut me open again, study the neural implants, make more like me." Her fingers dug into his skin. "I destroyed their program. I am the last. I cannot let them start again." Jace had no reason to trust this strange, glowing woman. No reason except the genuine terror in her eyes and the trembling of her hands against his skin. He'd seen that look before, in the eyes of the people he'd once rescued from disaster zones and collapsing structures. "Mina," he called to his ship's AI. "Options?" "Well," came the sardonic reply. "You could surrender the glowing woman currently attached to your naked body to the heavily armed enforcement officers about to board this vessel. Or you could put some pants on, and we could attempt a highly inadvisable escape through the medical frigate's waste disposal system, which, according to my scans, connects to an auxiliary launch bay on the lower deck." "How long until they breach?" "Approximately 3 minutes. I've activated interference protocols to slow their override codes, but they have priority clearance." Jace made a decision. "I need clothes and a route to that launch bay." Alira's glow brightened momentarily. "You're helping me?" "I'm helping us," Jace corrected, awkwardly maneuvering to reach for his pressure suit while maintaining skin contact with her. If they're willing to dock with force and override security, they're not here for a friendly chat with me either. For the first time, uncertainty crossed her features. You don't understand. I cannot separate from you, not even for moments. Jace paused, pressure suit in hand. What exactly happens if you do? My neural system begins to shut down. The implants require a stabilizing emotional frequency and bioelectric field to function properly. Without it, she didn't finish. And I have this frequency? Yes, she hesitated. Only you. Jace didn't have time to process the implications. Then we'll have to make this work. Can you shift position so I can at least get partially dressed? What followed was an awkward dance of limbs as Jace managed to pull on the lower half of his pressure suit, while Alira maintained constant contact with some part of his upper body. It wasn't dignified, but dignity seemed a small price to pay for survival. 90 seconds, Jace, Mina warned. Root? Sending to your ocular display now. A blue line appeared in Jace's field of vision, mapping a path through the ship's guts. Ready? He asked Alira. She nodded once, her expression hardening into resolve. I will not slow you down. Jace had to carry her, not because she couldn't walk, but because every moment they needed to maintain skin contact. She wrapped her arms around his neck, pressing her cheek against his bare chest as he navigated the narrow maintenance passages of the derelict medical frigate. Behind them, the hollow boom of the airlock being breached echoed through the ship. They're in, Mina reported unnecessarily. Can you see them? How many? 6 heavily armed officers and 1 individual in civilian clothing. The civilian appears to be directing the operation. Jace ducked through a low passage, feeling Alira's breath against his skin. Any idea who they are? The civilian is Cray Hennix, former mercenary, now Special Operations for the Galactic Union. His specialization is retrieval of high-value assets. That would be me, Alira murmured against his chest. Jace increased his pace, following the blue line through the ship's intestines. The waste disposal chute was just ahead, a long, dark tube that would carry them down 3 decks to the auxiliary launch bay, where his salvage shuttle waited. I hope your people don't mind tight spaces, he said. Alira's glow pulsed. We evolved in cave systems beneath ice sheets. Enclosed spaces are comforting. The chute was a tight fit for 2 people determined to maintain body contact, but they managed, sliding down the slick surface in a tangle of limbs. Jace tried to focus on the task at hand, rather than the sensation of her skin against his. They emerged into the sterile white of the auxiliary launch bay. Jace's shuttle, a battered but reliable craft he'd named Scavenger, waited at the far end, its entry ramp already lowered thanks to Mina's remote access. Almost there, he encouraged as they sprinted across the open space. That's when the first stun blast hit the floor beside them, sending up a shower of sparks. Halt! Came a mechanically amplified voice. Surrender the Sethala subject immediately. Jace didn't slow, zigzagging toward the shuttle as more stun blasts peppered the deck around them. Alira clung to him, her glow fluctuating wildly with each near miss. They were 10 meters from the ramp when Alira suddenly gasped, her body going rigid against his. Jace glanced down to see a thin dart protruding from her shoulder, its tip pulsing with a sickly green light. Neural disruptor, she managed, her voice suddenly weak. It's designed to... She convulsed against him, her glow flickering like a dying light. Alira! Alira! Jace felt a surge of panic as her eyes rolled back. He increased his speed, practically diving up the shuttle ramp with her in his arms. Mina, close it up and get us out of here. The ramp hissed shut behind them, as Jace carried Alira's limp form to the small medical alcove at the rear of the shuttle. Her skin had dulled to an ashen gray, the luminescence all but gone. What's happening to her? He demanded as the shuttle's engines roared to life. Analyzing, Mina replied. A beam of light from a ceiling sensor swept over Alira's form. Subject is experiencing severe neural cascade failure. The dart contained a compound designed to disrupt the synthetic neural pathways in her central nervous system. Can you neutralize it? Negative. This technology is beyond my medical protocols. However, data suggests that restoration of the stabilizing frequency she referenced might counteract the disruption. How do I do that? Increase skin contact. Her neural implants appear designed to absorb and process emotional and bioelectric energy directly from another organism. Jace didn't hesitate. He stripped off the top half of his pressure suit and gathered a lira against his chest, wrapping his arms fully around her. "Come on," he whispered against her hair. "Stay with me." For several tense moments, nothing happened. Then, gradually, a faint glow began to return to her skin. Her breathing steadied. "It's working," Mina confirmed. "Neural patterns stabilizing." The shuttle shuddered as it broke free of the medical frigate's docking clamps. Through the viewport, Jace could see a sleek, black enforcement vessel attempting to maneuver into an intercept position. "Can we outrun them?" "Not conventionally," Mina replied. "But I've plotted a course through the debris field of the destroyed moon. Their vessel is too large to follow. If we can reach it before they lock tractor beams." "Do it." The shuttle lurched as Mina executed a tight turn, accelerating toward the glittering field of moon fragments that orbited the gas giant nearby. Alira stirred in Jace's arms, her eyes fluttering open. "You saved me," she whispered, her voice weak but clear. "We're not safe yet," Jace cautioned, though he couldn't help the relief that flooded through him. "How are you feeling?" "Connected." Her eyes, those deep pools of darkness, searched his face. "You could have let me go, left me behind." Jace thought about the terror in her eyes when she spoke of being taken back, cut open. "I don't abandon people who need help. Old habit." The shuttle banked sharply as it entered the debris field, weaving between massive chunks of the shattered moon. Behind them, the enforcement vessel fired warning shots that dissipated harmlessly against the larger fragments. "They're falling behind," Mina reported, calculating jump coordinates to clear space. Alira's hand found Jace's, her fingers intertwining with his. "Thank you," she said simply. Jace nodded, suddenly uncomfortable with the intimacy of their position, now that the immediate danger had passed. "So," he said, attempting nonchalance, "want to explain why you were on an abandoned medical frigate, and why the Galactic Union is so keen to get you back?" Alira's glow dimmed slightly. "It is complicated." "We've got time," Jace replied, gesturing to the viewport where the debris field now shielded them from pursuit. "And, considering you're apparently stuck to me for the foreseeable future, I think I deserve some answers." She was silent for a long moment, her gaze distant. "The Sathala were once a powerful empire," she finally began. "But our physiology was problematic. We evolved to absorb and process emotional energy from other sentient beings." "You feed on emotions?" Jace asked, trying to keep the alarm from his voice. "Not feed. Process. Share." She frowned, searching for words. "It is symbiotic, not parasitic. In our natural state, we form emotional bonds with compatible species, sharing sensations, memories. It is considered intimate, sacred. But the Galactic Union found another use for it," Jace guessed. Alira nodded, her expression darkening. "When our empire fell, the Union discovered our physiological abilities. They saw potential for weapons. Imagine assassins who could induce paralyzing terror with a touch. Interrogators who could extract information through emotional manipulation. And that's what they did to you, made you into a weapon." "They tried." Her fingers unconsciously tightened around his. "They implanted synthetic neural networks to amplify and control my natural abilities. But the experiments were flawed. Most subjects died. Those who survived couldn't control the feedback loops. They went mad from the emotional overflow." "But you survived." "I adapted. I learned to channel the feedback, to stabilize the synthetic pathways. I became what they wanted, proof that their program could work. Her glow pulsed with what Jace now recognized as emotion. So I destroyed it. All their research, their facilities. I escaped with the only thing they truly needed to continue. Me. And now they want you back to start over. Yes. She met his gaze directly. I am living proof of their atrocities. Jace Warwick, the last of my kind, and the only successful subject of their neural enhancement program. While I live free, their crimes remain exposed. Jace considered this, unconsciously stroking his thumb over the back of her hand. And the part about needing to stay in contact with me. An unexpected consequence of the neural implants. They require a stabilizing emotional frequency to function properly. Without it, the synthetic pathways begin to degrade, causing a cascade failure throughout my nervous system. And I have this frequency? Yes, she hesitated. It is rare. A specific emotional resonance pattern that complements and stabilizes my own. When I escaped, I was slowly dying until I found you. Found me? On a derelict medical frigate in the middle of nowhere? For the first time, uncertainty crossed her features. I don't know how I found you, only that I did. Perhaps the implants have capabilities even their creators didn't understand. Jace wasn't sure he believed that, but before he could press further, Mina interrupted. Jump coordinates locked, preparing for translation in 30 seconds. Where are we headed? Jace asked. Zendara Ice Moon, remote, minimal Union presence, suitable atmosphere for both your physiologies. Alira's expression lightened. An ice moon? That would be comfortable for me. Jace raised an eyebrow. Caves under ice sheets, right? She nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. Our bodies regulate temperature differently than yours. We absorb and emit thermal energy, along with emotional energy. Cold environments are refreshing. The shuttle hummed as the jump drives charged. Through the viewport, the debris field began to blur. Hold on, Jace warned, instinctively tightening his grip around Alira as space folded around them. The jump was smooth, a momentary sensation of compression followed by the stark view of a gleaming white moon hanging against the backdrop of a dense nebula. Zendara Ice Moon, Mina announced. Establishing orbit. Jace carefully disentangled himself from Alira, though he kept one hand on her shoulder to maintain contact. Let's find somewhere to set down where we can regroup and figure out our next move. Alira nodded, her glow steady and calm. The Union will not give up easily. Cray Hennix particularly. He has personal interest in my recapture. Personal how? He led the neural enhancement program. My escape destroyed his life's work and damaged his standing in the Union. He wants revenge as much as he wants to restart the program. Jace felt a chill that had nothing to do with the approaching ice moon. Then, we'll have to be careful. They sat down in a ravine, surrounded by towering ice spires that would help mask their energy signature. The shuttle's external sensors reported temperatures well below freezing, but the environment was technically breathable for humans with the right protective gear. For Alira, however, it seemed perfect. As they stepped out onto the frozen surface, Jace in his full pressure suit, Alira still maintaining skin contact with his exposed hand, her glow brightened noticeably. This feels good, she said, looking around at the crystalline landscape. Reminds me of home before. She didn't finish, but Jace could see the shadow of loss in her eyes. Mina, keep the shuttle systems on low power and maintain perimeter scans, he instructed. Alert us to any approach. Already done, the AI replied. I've also identified a network of caves approximately 200 meters north. They would provide additional shielding from orbital scans. Good thinking. We'll check them out. The trek across the icy surface was strangely peaceful. Zendara's atmosphere created an aurora effect in the thin air, casting rippling veils of color across the white landscape. Alira walked beside Jace, one hand always touching his, her eyes drinking in the beauty around them. "You mentioned you were once a rescue specialist," she said after a while, "before salvage diving." Jace tensed slightly. "A long time ago." "What happened?" He considered deflecting, but something about her direct gaze made him answer honestly. "I lost people. A settlement on Europa collapsed. Gas pocket explosion. We were sent in to evacuate. I got most people out, but..." He swallowed hard. "3 of my team didn't make it. Structural failure while they were extracting the last survivors." "I'm sorry." "Yeah, well, decided salvage was safer. Less chance of letting people down when you're only dealing with abandoned ships and cargo." Alira was quiet for a moment. "Yet here you are, risking yourself for someone again." Jace didn't have a response for that. The caves were exactly where Mina had indicated. A series of tunnels bored into the ice cliffs, likely formed by ancient gas vents. Inside, the temperature was marginally warmer, and the ice walls glowed with a faint blue luminescence similar to Alira's skin. "Bioluminescent algae," Mina explained through Jace's comm bracelet. "Quite common in ice moon environments." Jace nodded, leading Alira deeper into the cave system, until they found a chamber large enough to set up a temporary camp. He deployed a thermal shelter from his emergency kit, a small dome that would maintain a livable temperature without requiring a significant power signature. Throughout these preparations, Alira remained close, always maintaining that critical skin contact. It created a strange intimacy between them, a forced proximity that made conversation both necessary and awkward. "So," Jace said as they settled inside the thermal shelter, "we need a plan. The Union will have tracking algorithms searching for us. It's only a matter of time before they narrow down our location." Alira nodded, her expression solemn. "I have been running for almost a year. There are few places in Union space where they cannot eventually find me." "What about beyond Union space? The free territories or even unclaimed regions?" "Possible, but difficult to reach without passing through Union checkpoints. And my condition makes extended space travel complicated." Jace frowned. "Because of the need for contact?" "Yes. During my escape, I discovered I can maintain neural stability for approximately 12 hours without contact, before the degradation becomes severe. With brief, regular contact, I can extend that period somewhat. But a journey beyond Union space would take weeks." "And you can't just fix the implants? Remove them?" Alira's glow dimmed noticeably. "They are integrated with my central nervous system. Attempting to remove them would kill me. And they cannot be fixed because they are not truly broken. They are functioning exactly as designed, merely without the control mechanisms the Union intended to implement." Jace ran a hand through his hair, careful to maintain contact with her through his other arm. "So we're stuck together, running from the most powerful organization in the galaxy, with no long-term solution." "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I did not intend to drag another into my struggle." Something in her tone made Jace look at her more closely. Despite her regal bearing and confident manner, he could see the toll the past year had taken. She was exhausted, alone, fighting not just for freedom but for survival itself. "Hey," he said, softening his voice. "We'll figure something out. I'm good at improvising." A small smile touched her lips. "I know. Your emotional frequency suggests adaptability and resilience. It's part of why you're compatible. About that, you still haven't really explained how you found me specifically. Out of trillions of beings in the galaxy, why me?" Alira looked away, her glow fluctuating slightly. "I told you. I don't know exactly. When I escaped, I was dying. The neural pathways were degrading. I followed something. A signal, perhaps. Or an instinct. It led me to that medical frigate and to you." Jace wasn't entirely satisfied with this explanation, but before he could press further, Mina's voice interrupted through his comm. "Perimeter alert! Union vessel entering the Zendara system." Jace felt Alira stiffen beside him. "How long do we have?" "Unknown. They have not yet detected our position, but they are initiating a systematic scan of the moon's surface. Estimated time until they locate our energy signature: 6 to 8 hours. We need to move," Jace decided. "Find a way off this moon before they pin us down." "There's nowhere to go," Alira said, a note of resignation in her voice. "Even if we evade this vessel, they will simply send more. Cray will never stop hunting me." Jace refused to accept defeat so easily. "There has to be a solution. What if we could prove what the Union did? Expose their neural enhancement program to the public? With what evidence? I destroyed their facilities, their research." "You said you're living proof." Alira's expression darkened. "And to prove it, I would need to submit to examination, likely by the very people who wish to exploit me." Jace fell silent, thinking. After a moment, he asked, "These neural implants, what exactly do they do? You mentioned they amplify your natural abilities to process emotional energy, but what does that actually mean in practice?" Alira hesitated, then said, "In my natural state, I could sense and absorb emotional energy from compatible beings. It was intimate, a sharing. The implants weaponize this ability, allowing me to not just absorb, but to project emotional states onto others." "Project emotions? Like making someone feel afraid or angry?" "Yes. Or calm. Or confused. Or any state I can manifest myself." She looked down at her hands. "The Union wanted to use this for interrogation, crowd control, assassination, a touch that could stop a heart through terror." Jay stared at her. "And you can do this? Right now?" "To a limited degree. I've suppressed the capability as much as possible. Using it hurts me, creates feedback loops in the neural pathways that are difficult to control. But in an emergency, if we were cornered..." She met his gaze, understanding dawning in her eyes. "It would be dangerous. For both of us. The emotional backlash could damage my neural core permanently. But it might give us a chance," Jace pressed. "A way to escape if they find us." Alira was quiet for a long moment. "Yes," she finally admitted. "As a last resort, I could attempt to project an emotional state powerful enough to incapacitate pursuers. But Jace..." Her fingers tightened around his. "If I do this, I will need your stability more than ever. The feedback could destroy me without your emotional frequency to ground me." The weight of that responsibility settled over Jace like a heavy cloak. This woman, this stranger, had bound her very survival to him, not by choice, but by some twist of biological and technological fate. "I won't let that happen," he promised, surprising himself with his own conviction. Alira's glow brightened momentarily, her eyes softening. "Thank you." For the next few hours, they prepared as best they could. Jace retrieved essential supplies from the shuttle, setting up a more defensible position deeper in the cave system. Alira remained close, the two of them developing an almost choreographed way of moving while maintaining contact. It should have been awkward, this constant physical connection with someone he barely knew. Yet somehow, it began to feel natural, comfortable even. There was an honesty to it, a directness that cut through the usual social pretenses. When you literally couldn't let go of someone, there was little point in emotional distance. "Tell me about your world," Jay said as they sat in their makeshift camp, waiting. "Before the Union." Alira's expression softened with memory. "Cathala was a world of ice and light. Our cities were built within massive glaciers, channels carved through the ice that glowed with the bioluminescence of our people. We lived in collective groups, Not families as you understand them, but emotional cohorts, beings whose frequencies complemented one another. It sounds beautiful. It was... Her glow dimmed slightly. The Union found us after our sun began to destabilize. They offered aid, evacuation. We didn't understand the price until it was too late. They experimented on your people during the evacuation? Alira nodded. Those with the strongest emotional projection abilities were selected for special programs. The rest were resettled, but without our collective bonds. Many simply faded away. Our species requires emotional connection to thrive. In isolation, we wither. Jace thought about the implications. So you're not just stuck with me because of the implants, but because your species naturally needs connection. Yes, though the implants have made that need more acute and specific to your particular frequency. She tilted her head, studying him. Does that disturb you? Jace considered the question honestly. It's a lot of responsibility to suddenly have someone's life in your hands. But no, it doesn't disturb me. Not anymore. Something passed between them then, a moment of understanding that transcended words. Alira's glow brightened, and Jace felt a strange warmth spread through him from the point where their skin touched. What was that? He asked, startled. Alira looked equally surprised. I shared my gratitude with you. Emotionally. I didn't intend to project. It just happened. It felt. Yes? Nice, Jace admitted. Warm. A small smile curved her lips. That is how it should be. Mutual, consensual. Not the weapon they tried to make of me. Before Jace could respond, Mina's voice cut through the moment. Alert! Union vessel has detected our shuttle's residual energy signature. Troops deploying to surface. Estimated arrival at our location, 20 minutes. The peaceful atmosphere shattered. Jace immediately switched to tactical mode, checking the supplies he'd gathered and the possible escape routes. We need to move deeper into the caves, he decided. Use the ice formations for cover and confusion. Mina, can you remotely activate the shuttle's engines? Create a diversion? Affirmative, but it will only buy you minutes. Do it, on my mark, once they're close enough to be distracted by it. Alira watched him, her expression a mixture of fear and resolve. Jace, if they corner us... I know. He met her gaze steadily. Last resort, but we're not there yet. They moved quickly through the winding ice tunnels. Jace using his salvager's instincts to navigate the labyrinthine passages. Alira kept pace easily, her natural affinity for the ice environment evident in her sure-footed movement. They had just reached a large chamber with multiple branching tunnels, when Mina's voice came through again. Union forces have split into 3 teams. They're entering the cave system now. Activate the shuttle, Jace ordered. Moments later, a distant rumble echoed through the caves as the shuttle's engines fired up. The ice around them vibrated slightly with the vibration. 2 teams diverted to investigate the shuttle, Mina reported. 1 team continuing into the caves. How many? 4 soldiers and 1 civilian. The civilian is Cray Henix. Alira's grip on Jace's hand tightened. He's coming himself. He must be desperate. Or confident, Jace muttered. Either way, we need to keep moving. They pressed deeper into the cave system, the bioluminescent algae providing just enough light to navigate by. Behind them, they could hear the faint echoes of pursuit. Boots on ice, muffled voices, the occasional glint of a searchlight reflecting off the crystalline walls. The chase continued for what felt like hours but was likely only minutes. The cave system played tricks with sound, making their pursuers seem sometimes far away, sometimes terrifyingly close. Dead end, Jace hissed as they entered a chamber with only one exit, the way they had come. We need to double back. Too late, Alira whispered, her glow dimming to almost nothing. They're right behind us. Sure enough, The sound of approaching footsteps echoed clearly now. Searchlight beams danced at the entrance to their chamber. Jace looked around desperately for some advantage, some way out. The chamber was large but offered little cover, just a few ice formations rising from the floor, and some crevices in the walls too small to hide in. "Alira," he said softly, meeting her eyes. "I think we're at last resort time." She nodded, her expression grave. "If I do this, I will need you, completely. The feedback will be severe." "I'm here," he promised. "Whatever you need." Alira took a deep breath, then released his hand only to place both of her palms flat against his chest, directly over his heart. Her skin began to glow more intensely, the silvery filaments beneath pulsing with increasing speed. "Your frequency," she whispered. "Hold it in your mind. Focus on it." Jace wasn't sure what that meant, but he tried to concentrate on the feeling of connection between them, the warmth that had spread through him earlier. "There," she said, her voice taking on that harmonic quality he'd heard when they first met. "Hold that." The first of their pursuers entered the chamber, a soldier in Union tactical gear, weapon raised. Behind him came 3 more, and then a figure in civilian clothing, a tall, gaunt man with sharp features and cold eyes. "Krahenix." "Subject Aliratane," he called, his voice clinical and detached. "Your escape attempt ends here. Return to Union custody immediately." Alira didn't turn to face him. Instead, she kept her eyes locked with Jace's, her glow intensifying until it almost hurt to look at her. "Don't let go," she whispered to Jace. Then, louder, "I will not return to be your experiment, Cray." The man's thin lips curved in what might have been a smile. "You misunderstand your importance, subject. You are not an experiment. You are a prototype. The first of what will be many. Your neural architecture has proven the concept." "I destroyed your program." "You destroyed data, facilities. But the core research team remains. And with you back in our possession, we can begin again. Better. Faster." He took a step forward. "The Union faces threats that conventional weapons cannot address. Your abilities represent the future of security operations." "My abilities represent the perversion of my people's nature," Alira said, her voice growing stronger, resonating strangely in the ice chamber. "We were meant to share emotion, not weaponize it." Cray sighed as if dealing with a stubborn child. "Irrelevant. Your people are effectively extinct. Their cultural preferences died with them. What remains is potential. Potential you have selfishly withheld." Throughout this exchange, Alira's glow had been intensifying, the silvery filaments beneath her skin now pulsing in a pattern that matched Jace's heartbeat. He could feel something building between them, a pressure, a gathering energy. "Last chance, subject," Cray said, gesturing to his soldiers. "Come willingly, or we will take you by force, and your human companion will not survive the process." Alira's eyes never left Jace's. "Now," she whispered, and then the world exploded into emotion. It began as a wave of pure, concentrated terror. Not Jace's own fear, but something outside him, washing over everything. The soldiers staggered back, weapons dropping from suddenly nerveless fingers. One fell to his knees, mouth open in a silent scream. Cray remained standing, though his face contorted with effort. "Neural dampeners," he gasped. "Standard procedure when dealing with you." But Alira wasn't finished. The terror morphed, shifted, became something else. A crushing sense of loss so profound that Jace felt tears spring to his eyes. It was the collective grief of a dying species, the anguish of survivors watching their world end. This hit Cray harder. He stumbled, one hand going to his chest. "Stop!" he commanded, but his voice lacked conviction. The emotional onslaught continued, changing again. Now a disorienting confusion that made it impossible to think clearly, to remember purpose. or direction. The soldiers who had still been standing now wandered aimlessly, bumping into walls, some sitting down heavily on the ice floor. Cray fought it longer, his face a mask of concentration. Impressive, he managed, but ultimately, futile. He reached into his jacket and withdrew a device that looked like a small remote. Neural disruptor, he said, his finger hovering over a button. Range of 20 meters. Will shut down your implants completely. Without your human battery to restart them, you'll die within minutes. Alira's hands pressed harder against Jace's chest. He could feel her trembling now, the emotional projection taking its toll. "One more," she whispered, her voice strained. "Hold me." Jace wrapped his arms around her, pulling her tightly against him. Her skin was hot now, almost burning where it touched his. The final emotional wave was different. Not a negative emotion, but something so intense it was almost as devastating. Pure, unconditional compassion, understanding, forgiveness. It hit Cray like a physical blow. He staggered back, the disruptor falling from his hand, his eyes wide with shock. For a man who had likely never shown mercy, or received it, being forced to feel its full weight was more disorienting than any fear or grief. "What are you doing? To me?" he gasped, sinking to his knees. "Showing you what you destroyed," Alira said, her voice weakening. "What we were meant to be." The glow from her skin suddenly flared blindingly bright, then dimmed dramatically. Jace felt her go limp in his arms. "Alira!" Panic surged through him as he lowered her carefully to the ground, maintaining as much skin contact as possible. "Alira!" Her eyes fluttered open, but the vibrant darkness had dulled to a flat, lifeless black. The silvery filaments beneath her skin moved sluggishly, some sections not moving at all. "Neural core damaged," she whispered. "Feedback loop too strong." "How do I fix it?" Jace demanded, gathering her closer. "Tell me what to do." Her hand weakly found his cheek. "Nothing to be done. The pathways are burning out." "No." Jace refused to accept it. "There has to be a way. The implants respond to my frequency, right? Can't I just give you more of it somehow?" A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "Not how it works. The interface is specific." Around them, the Union soldiers and Cray remained incapacitated, lost in the emotional aftermath of Alira's attack. They had time, but it meant nothing if she was dying in his arms. "Mina!" Jace called desperately into his comm. "Analysis. The neural implants in Alira's system. What's happening to them?" "Scanning," the AI replied. After a moment, "The synthetic neural pathways are experiencing a cascading failure, similar to an electrical system overload. The emotional projection appears to have created a feedback surge that the pathways couldn't handle." "Can it be reversed?" "Unknown. This technology is beyond my medical databases. However, theoretically, if the overloaded pathways could be bypassed or stabilized long enough for her natural healing processes to work." "How? How do we stabilize them?" Mina was silent for a beat. "The implants were designed to interface with external emotional frequencies. Your frequency specifically appears to have a stabilizing effect. A more direct interface might provide sufficient stability." "More direct? We're skin to skin. How much more direct can it get?" "Neural direct," Alira whispered, her eyes focusing on him with effort. "A direct brain-to-brain interface." Jace stared at her. "Is that possible?" "The medical frigate," she said, each word clearly an effort. "Neural transplant equipment. Could reconfigure to create temporary bridge." "We're nowhere near the frigate," Jace pointed out, "and the Union is there now." "My shuttle," came Cray's voice, unexpected and strained. The man was still on his knees, his face wet with tears he probably hadn't shed in decades. "Has medical bay, neural equipment, for extracting information." Jace looked at him with suspicion. "Why would you help us?" Cray's expression was one of confusion and pain. She made me feel what they felt, what I destroyed. He shook his head as if trying to clear it. I can't undo that, but I can not make it worse. Jace didn't trust him, but they had no other options. Mina, verify. Union Special Operations vessels do typically contain advanced neural interface equipment. The AI confirmed. It is possible it could be repurposed as described. Jace made his decision. Fine, where's your shuttle? North Ridge, Cray said, struggling to his feet. Half kilometer, I can lead you. You go first, Jace instructed, gathering Alira into his arms. Her skin was cooling rapidly, the glow fading to almost nothing. And if this is a trap? No trap, Cray said, his voice hollow. Just atonement. The journey to Cray's shuttle was tense and difficult. The Union soldiers remained behind, still too disoriented to follow. Cray walked ahead, occasionally stumbling as if drunk, the after-effects of Alira's emotional assault still evident in his unsteady gait. Jace carried Alira, her body growing progressively colder against his. Her eyes remained open, but unfocused, the silvery filaments beneath her skin moving more slowly with each passing minute. Stay with me, he murmured against her hair. Just a little longer. The shuttle was where Cray had said it would be, a sleek, black Union vessel, designed for stealth and speed. He led them directly to the medical bay, a sterile white chamber filled with equipment that looked more suited to interrogation than healing. Neural extraction unit, Cray said, gesturing to a chair surrounded by articulated mechanical arms, tipped with delicate instruments. Designed to access memories directly. Could be repurposed. Jace laid Alira carefully on the medical bay's examination table, keeping one hand firmly on her arm. Mina, can you interface with this system? Attempting connection now, the AI replied through his comm. Union security is extensive but not impenetrable. Estimated time to full access, 3 minutes. Alira's eyes found Jace's, a flicker of awareness returning. If this works, she whispered, you'll experience everything. My memories, feelings. No privacy between us. I don't care, Jace said firmly. Whatever it takes. A faint smile touched her lips. So certain. That's why your frequency matches. Before Jace could ask what she meant, Mina announced, Access achieved. Reconfiguring neural extraction protocols now. The mechanical arms around the chair began to move, repositioning themselves. A second chair rose from the floor beside the first. The procedure requires both subjects to be seated and restrained, Mina explained. The neural bridge is intense. Involuntary movement could damage the connection. Jace looked at Alira, then at the chairs. Will it hurt her? Unknown, Mina admitted. But without intervention, her neural pathways will continue to degrade. Current estimate gives her less than 30 minutes before irreversible damage occurs. Jace made his decision. Let's do it. With Cray's help, the man seemed determined to assist. Though whether from genuine remorse or the lingering effects of Alira's emotional assault was unclear, Jace moved Alira to one of the chairs. He took the other, allowing the automated restraints to secure his arms and legs. Neural interface initiating, Mina announced, as delicate probes descended toward both their heads. This will create a direct connection between your consciousness and Alira's. Your emotional frequency will be channeled directly into her neural pathways, bypassing the damaged sections and providing stability for her natural healing processes. Will I feel what she's feeling? Jace asked, suddenly nervous. And more, Mina confirmed. This is a complete neural bridge. Memories, emotions, sensations, all will be shared. Are you prepared? Jace looked at Alira in the chair beside him. Her eyes were closed now, her skin ashen, the glow all but extinguished. He thought about the first moment he'd woken to find her on his chest, the terror in her eyes when she spoke of being taken back, the way she'd trusted him despite everything. "Do it," he said. The neural probes made contact with his temples, and the world dissolved. At first, there was nothing but a rush of sensation. Too much input, too many feelings and memories flooding in at once. Jace felt as if he were drowning in someone else's consciousness. Then, gradually, patterns emerged. Structure. He began to feel Alira's life, not as a linear narrative, but as an immersive experience. The icy beauty of Cythala, the harmonious existence of emotional cohorts, beings linked not by blood, but by complementary frequencies. The approaching stellar disaster, the Union's arrival, offering salvation. Then pain, betrayal, being separated from her cohort, the experiments, needles and neural probes far less gentle than the ones now connecting them. The horror of feeling her natural abilities twisted into weapons, the deaths of others like her, their minds unable to handle the modifications. Her escape, the desperate flight across Union space, the gradual degradation of the neural implants without a stabilizing presence, the pain of slowly dying, alone. And then, a call, not a sound, but a feeling, a frequency that resonated with her modified neural pathways, a beacon in the darkness of space that led her, half-conscious, to a derelict medical frigate. To Jace, with a shock of recognition, he understood. It hadn't been random chance that brought her to him. The neural implants, designed to seek out and exploit emotional vulnerabilities, had instead found their perfect complement, a frequency that stabilized rather than destabilized. His frequency, his emotional signature, unique in the galaxy, at least to her altered perception. She had been unconsciously calling to him from the moment the implants were activated, and some part of him had answered without knowing. The realization came with another. Alira was there, in the neural bridge with him, not just her memories and emotions, but her active consciousness, observing his epiphany. "You understand now," her thought voice came, weak but clear. "Why it had to be you." "Why me?" he responded, the communication feeling as natural as breathing. "What makes my frequency so special?" "Balance," she explained. "Your emotional pattern complements mine perfectly. Stability, where I am volatile. Warmth, where I am cold." The Union tried to find compatible frequencies for their weapons program, but they were looking for vulnerability, not harmony. "So I'm not just a random compatible human?" A sensation like gentle laughter. "There is no such thing as random in emotional resonance. The universe has patterns, connections. The implants simply amplified my ability to find mine." As they communicated, Jace could feel something happening in the neural bridge. The damaged pathways in Alira's system were beginning to stabilize, drawing strength from the connection to his own neural patterns. It was working. "You're healing," he observed with relief. "Yes, but what?" The neural core damage was severe. "Even with healing, I will need connection, regular contact. The implants cannot be removed without killing me, and they will never function independently again." The implication was clear. Even after this procedure, Alira would still need him, his presence, his touch, his emotional frequency to survive. "I'm sorry," she thought, a wave of regret accompanying the words. "I didn't intend to bind you to me this way." Jace considered this. The prospect of being permanently connected to another being, responsible for their very survival, should have terrified him. After losing his rescue team on Europa, he deliberately avoided deep connections, choosing the solitary life of a salvage diver precisely because it limited his responsibility for others. Yet somehow, the thought of this connection with Alira didn't feel like a burden. It felt right, as if a piece of himself that had been missing had finally slotted into place. "I'm not sorry," he replied, letting her feel the honesty behind the thought. "We'll figure it out, together." Relief and gratitude flooded through the neural bridge from her side. Pure, unfiltered emotion that wrapped around him like a warm embrace. As the healing continued, they remained connected, sharing memories, feelings, experiences. Jace showed her his childhood on Earth, his training as a rescue specialist, the disaster on Europa that had changed his path. She showed him more of Sathala, the beauty of her world before its end, the richness of life in an emotional cohort. Time lost meaning in the neural bridge. It could have been minutes or hours when Mina's voice finally penetrated the connection. Neural pathways stabilized, preparing to disengage bridge. "Will you remember all this?" Jace asked, as he felt the connection beginning to fade. "Everything," Alira confirmed. "As will you. The neural bridge creates permanent pathways between minds. We will always know each other in ways few beings ever do." The thought was both intimidating and comforting. As the bridge dissolved around them, Jace felt a momentary sense of loss, like being pulled away from something essential. Then he was back in his body, blinking at the harsh lights of the medical bay. The restraints released automatically, and he turned immediately to look at Alira. She was sitting up straight, her eyes open and alert, the darkness in them vibrant once again. The glow had returned to her skin, the silvery filaments beneath pulsing with steady rhythm. Most importantly, she was smiling, a real smile that reached her eyes. "You did it," she said, her voice stronger than he'd heard it yet. "We did it," he corrected, reaching out to take her hand. The connection of skin to skin felt different now, still necessary for her physical well-being, but also a confirmation of the deeper connection they now shared. "The neural pathways have been successfully stabilized," Mina reported. "However, regular contact will still be required to maintain functionality. Estimated minimum, 4 hours of direct skin contact per day." Jace raised an eyebrow at Alira. "4 hours, huh? That's better than stuck to you forever." She laughed, a sound he realized he hadn't heard before. It was musical, with that same harmonic quality as her voice. "Are you complaining, Jace Warwick?" "Definitely not," he squeezed her hand. "Just negotiating terms." A throat clearing reminded them of Cray's presence. The Union operative stood by the door of the medical bay, his usual cold demeanor shattered, his expression uncertain. "What happens now?" he asked. "The Union will still hunt you. They'll send others." Jace and Alira exchanged a look, a wealth of understanding passing between them without words, a remnant of their neural connection. "We expose them," Jace said. "The whole program. What they did to the Sathala. We have proof now. Not just Alira's word, but my direct neural experience of it. Mina recorded everything through the bridge." "The Union will deny it," Cray warned. "Classify it. Discredit you." "Perhaps," Alira acknowledged. "But they cannot silence the truth forever, especially with evidence from one of their own." Cray looked startled. "Me? You expect me to testify against my own organization?" "I expect you to honor what you felt," Alira said simply. "The emotional truth I showed you, it changed you. I can see it in your frequency now." The man seemed to struggle internally, decades of loyalty warring with his recent emotional awakening. "It would be the end of my career, possibly my freedom." "Yes," Alira agreed. "Atonement often requires sacrifice." Cray was silent for a long moment, then nodded once, sharply. "I will provide what evidence I can, on one condition." "What's that?" Jace asked warily. "You take this ship." Cray gestured around them. "It has advanced cloaking technology, secure communication channels, and enough supplies to last months. It will give you a fighting chance while we address the situation politically." Jace couldn't quite believe what he was hearing. "You're just giving us your ship?" "Consider it restitution," Cray said, his voice strained but determined. A beginning. Alira studied him for a moment, then inclined her head regally. We accept, and we will honor your assistance when the time comes for judgment. The transfer of the ship was surprisingly straightforward. Cray provided full access codes and instructed Mina on the vessel's specialized systems before taking Jace's smaller shuttle to return to the Union. I can't guarantee how long it will take, he said, as he prepared to depart. The Union bureaucracy is resistant to change, and there are those who will fight to protect the program at any cost. We'll be ready, Jace assured him. And if things go sideways, we'll find another way. I'm good at improvising, remember? A ghost of a smile touched Cray's thin lips. So I've observed. He hesitated, then added, for what it's worth. I am sorry. For what was done to your people, he said, addressing Alira directly. I didn't understand. Understanding is the beginning of change, she replied. Use it well. As Cray's shuttle, formerly Jace's, disappeared into the atmosphere, Jace and Alira stood in the command center of their new vessel, hands still linked. So, Jace said, looking at the star map displayed on the main screen. Where to now, Your Highness? Or should I say, Your Majesty? Alira looked at him quizzically. What do you mean? Well, you said you were the last heir of the Sathala Empire. Doesn't that make you queen now, not princess? Her eyes widened slightly, as if the thought hadn't occurred to her. I suppose. Technically, yes. Though it feels meaningless without a people to rule. You have at least one subject, Jace pointed out with a grin. Me, permanently attached to the throne, as it were. Unofficial emotional advisor to the queen, she amended, her glow brightening with amusement. A vital position. Just so we're clear, Jace said, pulling her closer. This 4 hours a day contact requirement. How exactly is that going to work? Because I do occasionally need to sleep alone. Alira's lips curved in a smile as she rested her head against his chest. Exactly where he'd first found her. Non-negotiable. I'm afraid. Queen's orders. From a speaker nearby, Mina's voice chimed in. If I might interrupt this touching moment, I've finished analyzing the ship's capabilities. The cloaking technology is considerably more advanced than anything I've encountered before. We should be able to remain undetected while we wait for Cray's political maneuvering to bear fruit. Good, Jace said, not taking his eyes off Alira. Set course for the outer territories, somewhere quiet where we can lay low for a while. Calculating optimal route now, the AI confirmed. And, may I say, it's about time you found someone to keep you company besides a semi-functional ship's computer. Jace rolled his eyes. Thanks, Mina. You're welcome. Oh, and congratulations on your new position as royal consort. Alira laughed at his expression. I'm beginning to think your AI has an emotional frequency of her own. Mostly sarcasm, Jace muttered, but he was smiling. As the ship hummed to life around them, preparing for the jump to their temporary sanctuary, Jace found himself thinking about the strange path that had led him here. From solitary salvage diver to, what? Protector? Partner? Consort to an alien queen? Whatever the label, he couldn't find it in himself to regret it. The neural bridge had shown him something he'd been missing since Europa. Connection. Real, meaningful connection to another being. What are you thinking? Alira asked, sensing his contemplation. Jace looked down at her, at the glow of her skin against his, at the depth in her eyes that he now understood went far beyond the physical. That, waking up with an alien princess on my chest, might be the best thing that ever happened to me. Queen, she corrected with mock severity. And I believe I'll be staying right here for the foreseeable future. Jace wrapped his arms more securely around her. I wouldn't have it any other way. And as the stars blurred outside the viewport, marking their passage into the unknown future, Jace realized that for the first time since Europa, He wasn't running away from connection. He was running toward it, with every beat of his heart.